Hi everyone, I'm KHOU 11 Meteorologist Pat Cavlin, just checking in with the severe weather threat that we are expecting as we get into the afternoon hours. We could see some pretty significant severe storms as well, with strong damaging wind gusts and also the potential for some very large hail. So here's the threats broken down line by line. The street flooding threat isn't overly high, but of course if you get a heavier downpour that sits over the same area for an extended period of time, you could get street flooding. It's pretty common here in southeast Texas, but it's really the large hail threat and the damaging wind threat that's the highest. That's actually what's driving the severe weather threat for today. The tornado threat, it's not zero, but it is unlikely. We're not really expecting a tornado threat. It really is a damaging wind and a large hail threat. And the timing for this, generally between 1 and 7 p.m., we actually may have to move that up probably closer to noon. So I would say anytime from noon on. You got to be on your guard and keep an eye to the sky as some bigger storms start to move into the area. We're pretty quiet out there right now. But if you've been outside, you'll notice we've had more sunshine so far this morning than we've seen pretty much any other day this week. And so that has helped to heat things up pretty quick. We've got a very unstable atmosphere in place. And the severe storms that you may have heard about that went through Dallas this morning, those are now moving east, just past through Lufkin. But we've got new development now on the back edge, thanks to an outflow boundary that rushed ahead of that storm. So now we're getting storms developing out towards Bryan College Station, and a brand new severe thunderstorm warning here just to the west of Crockett. So this will be the leading edge of storms that eventually dive into our area here out towards Marquez. You can see these storms. This will eventually develop into a pretty well-defined and a pretty significant line. And it's that line of storms that'll move south into our area. And that is where the damaging wind threat will come into play. So that's why we're really concerned with this. The Storm Prediction Center has upgraded our severe weather risk for today. A lot of folks are asking, is this going to be like 2 weeks ago? And we really never want to compare two weather events to each other because everything's different, right? There's a totally different set of circumstances. The atmosphere looks totally different. So no two events are ever going to be exactly the same. But the threats that we saw that day, the damaging winds and the hail potential, that is there. So that's why you got to be on your guard and get prepared ahead of these storms because they are probably about 2 hours away from some of our northern areas here, from Huntsville back through Brenham and into Grimes County. So here's Future Track. This is the model that is starting with the best handle on things. Notice how it has some storms here up towards the Waco area. Take this with a grain of salt. Obviously, it doesn't look perfect, but the idea is there that by 1 and 2 o'clock, we see those storms in the Huntsville area, into Grimes County, coming into Washington County. And then look what starts to happen. Away from that line, we get more storms that start to pop off on the sea breeze coming in. So maybe Fort Bend County, getting into western portions of Harris County, out towards Liberty County, we've already got showers starting to pop up. So the radar image is really going to blossom here as we go through the course of the afternoon with all of the sun that's heated things up. 3 o'clock, it is going to be a mess out there. We could be seeing some really heavy rainfall, some significant thunderstorms in and around the Houston area. And then I think that by dinner time, so around 5, 6, 7 o'clock, that's when things start to settle down and we see the worst of this move offshore. We were expecting another round of storms for the overnight, and I still think we'll see some rain overnight, but if we get these storms this afternoon, I think the potential to see severe weather during the overnight hours significantly drops because the atmosphere will have been worked over. And you can see that by 9 o'clock, that batch starts to move off towards the south. So here's the breakdown for today. The entire area, all of southeast Texas, is in the orange. So that's a level 3 out of 5, 5 being the highest. It's a level 3 for severe weather. So we got an upgrade from a level 2 this morning. Timing, probably around 1 to 7, but again, wouldn't be surprised to see some activity earlier than that, probably around noon. And meteorologist Kim Castro will be walking you through that on the 12 o'clock show. And the threats break down like this: 2 to 3 inch diameter hail, not out of the question. That's hail that will do damage to your vehicle and maybe even to your home. And then 65 to 85 mile per hour wind gusts. And we actually had storms that produced those kinds of winds this morning up in the Dallas area. DFW Airport recorded a 77 mile per hour wind gust. So those are the two big threats that we're watching. Again, the tornado threat, not likely, but not zero. So, of course, we're always staying on guard for that. So what can you do ahead of this, right? A lot of anxiety after what happened 2 weeks ago, a little bit of a helpless feeling maybe. First and foremost, make sure that all of your electronics are charged and ready to go. That way, if you lose power, you have a way to stay connected. You've got a way to get warnings. You're staying on top of the forecast. That's the next tip. Stay close to the forecast here the next few hours, because in a situation like this, there's a lot of variables at play. A lot of things can change last minute, so you want to make sure that you have the latest information constantly. Have multiple ways of getting warnings. TV, radio, your cell phone, right? So make sure that you have those methods lined up and that you're not missing anything. And when you do get a warning, please take it seriously. We can't emphasize enough how dangerous some of these storms can be. And last but not least, and this is not to scare anyone, but just be prepared for the possibility that you do lose power. And for some of you watching this, it might be losing power again. You may have just gotten it back. Again, this is not to scare, this is not to hype things up, but the possibility is there that if you get a strong windstorm, power could be out maybe for a couple of hours, hopefully no more than that, if anything. So these are the 4 tips that you need to kind of live by as we go through the course of the afternoon. We've got meteorologist Kim Castro coming up at 12 o'clock, and then looks like we're going to be doing team weather as we get into the evening with Chief Meteorologist David Paul and Kim Castro. And of course, they'll be walking you through all of this. They'll be keeping you up to date on digital. They'll be keeping track of radar here as we go through the afternoon. But a pretty busy weather day coming up for us here in Southeast Texas. Things should turn a lot quieter, though, as we get into tomorrow. And again, we'll have that full forecast coming up for you on KHOU 11 News at noon. Until then, we'll see you later.